Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Hamdan yuwafi ni'ama yukafi mazida. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin khayr al-bariyah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما إنك أنت عليم حكيم إنك أنت عليم حكيم إنك أنت عليم حكيم يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين فتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا جميعا يا الله فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا جميعا يا الله وكفر عنا سيئاتنا يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين أما بعد Alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, we are moving on, lesson 15 today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And yesterday we started talking about extensions of mercy, right? Extensions of mercy, and the primary extension of mercy that we need to have, and that we need to practice first and foremost, is the extension of mercy to our parents, being kind to our parents, right? By any means, falling within the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we obey, that we listen, and that we follow what our parents desire from us, and we strive to bring them kindness. And there's numerous benefits that we can derive from both within this life and in the hereafter through seeking the happiness for our parents, right? And so we want happiness for our parents, and we inculcate mercy within ourselves, and then we extend that happiness and that mercy towards them, inshallah ta'ala, right? And so we start with those that are close with us first when it comes to extensions of mercy and making others happy. And then following after the parents, one might think, okay, well, children must be next, or maybe siblings or friends or something like that, or other relatives. No. Inshallah ta'ala, lesson 15 is all about good treatment of our neighbors. Good treatment of our neighbors. And this is something definitely within our culture and in our society that, I think most of us can admit that we've lost a sense of real community, especially in the past, you could say 50 years of the country, in the United States, maybe the past 50 years, that we've really lost that sense of community where the person that you lived next to was like an extension of your own family. That they weren't just a friend or an acquaintance, or at least somebody that you were just friendly with, but they were like an extension of family. Right? I know definitely in the African American community that there's this idea of, children being able to be disciplined by neighbors, and then the neighbor will then tell the original parent that this is what your child did, and then the child will receive further discipline from the parent afterwards, right? And so it's the idea, right, of just being a keeper for one another. And when we use the word discipline, we just mean in a very healthy type of disciplinary manner in which children and all, which children need, but in any regards, right? This idea of being a keeper for one another, your brother's keeper in a sense. That's something that's really lost within our individualistic, selfie type culture that we're all consumed by on a daily basis. And it seems like with the advent of social media, the advent of different communication forms via technology, it seems like the technology has now taken the place, has in its software interface and its computer interface has taken place of our human interface. Literally, interface between humans is not, we call it computer interface or a software interface or what have you, but you're not going between faces, you're going between a face and a screen. And so really it's interfake. And the true interface, we have lost that. We rather delve into the interfake as opposed to the interface, face-to-face communication. It's something we've really lost. Some of us do better than others, but for me not to know and have a better relationship with my neighbors, and to not know their children's names, or for me not to know, let's say, other aspects and details of their lives, or us not being able to exchange conversations beyond just a couple minutes, or beyond general formalities or what have you, that's problematic for us. If we only have those kind of interactions with our neighbors. And so that's where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the hadith that's mentioned in here, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam described that Jibreel would continuously, that Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel Gabriel, that he would continuously remind him of the rights of the neighbor, until the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam thought that he was going to give him the rights of inheritance. That the neighbor was going to receive rights of inheritance. But what is that? That goes to show the station of the neighbor, of those we live next to. And it's not just by physical proximity, right? I'm not just talking about physical proximity, right? Our neighbors within our broader communities, okay? Let's keep it Muslim specific. Within our broader communities, within our masajid, there are neighbors in faith. All attendees in the same community, even if we live maybe 2, 3, 5 minutes or even more away from one another, right? And we're still neighbors within the community, in a sense. And for us to not, this whole chapter really gets at the building blocks of a healthy community. Being that if we have that true concern for neighbors, if we have that true concern for our neighbors, and we have that true concern for those that are around us, then this nurtures the bonds within a community. People stop becoming so formalized in their approach with one another. Things start to become real. Things start to become real. Please excuse me, mashallah. Things start to become real, as mashallah, the fast overtakes you. And speaking makes you yawn, mashallah. Astaghfirullah. Anyways. But yeah, right, so that a sense of realness overtakes you, a realness in a relationship, a realness in a bond with another human, that interface, it becomes real, it becomes felt. And you start to see common humanity between your neighbors and your different community members. But if we don't have that kind of real concern to the point where we feel like the neighbor would be entitled to some kind of inheritance, in a sense, then it all kind of goes by the wayside, and we don't really have the true foundation of community that we need in order to build upon. We might have the $1 million dome in place. We might have the huge complex with the basketball gym set up in place. We might have X, Y, and Z set up. But if we don't have individuals who are willing to get in the mud with one another, we don't have individuals who are willing to be with one another, we don't have individuals who are able to have a meaningful conversation with one another, more than just beyond the imam or behind whomever in the community. Right? This goes beyond that. Between brothers and sisters, men and women, between ourselves, we all need to be in with one another. We all need to be in with one another. And so, right, even in regards to our family members, we would think, okay, they'll have a share of inheritance, they are blood, they are whatever like that. We need to have that same kind of treatment towards our neighbors as well. As if they're blood. As if they're blood. And that's really what's highlighted from that hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We treat neighbors as if they're our blood and kinship. Right? And even furthermore, that the Prophet ﷺ, he became very, the treatment of their neighbors was something extremely, extremely crucial in regards to one's iman. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that an individual does not go to bed satiated and leaving it, and the individual does not go to bed satiated and leaves his neighbor hungry at his side. Right? That a believer does not go to bed satiated while leaving his neighbor hungry at his side, meaning that the true believer has that kind of concern for their neighbor, that if they knew their neighbor was hungry or didn't have adequate food or what have you, that they wouldn't be able to go to sleep until they made sure that their neighbor was all right. Right? Even delivering food themselves or what have you. And there's a beautiful example that's going to be coming shortly from one of our great pious individuals of the past on just that kind of concern, especially when it came to especially when it came to feeding. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that he also mentioned that by Allah he is not a believer. He said, and then he repeated it. By Allah he is not a believer. And they repeated it a third time. Who is not a believer? His companion said, wretched is such a person. So the companion said that wretched is such a person. And then the Prophet ﷺ replied, the one whose neighbor is not safe from his harm. And so the Prophet ﷺ said 3 different times, he is not a believer, he is not a believer, he is not a believer. And the companions were like, oh my goodness, oh yeah, okay, this is serious. Like for the Prophet ﷺ to repeat himself 3 times, because the Prophet ﷺ, when he would get angry, he would repeat himself in such a manner when he really wanted to emphasize a point. You know, out of that righteous type of anger, you could say, right? It's not obviously he didn't give into his anger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he experienced the emotion, right? He experienced the emotion, experiencing emotions is okay. It's all right. It's about how it comes out and for why it comes out. About how it comes out and for why it comes out. And so in any regard, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he repeated that he is not a believer 3 different times. I swear, if I yawn one more time, it was about to come. And then the companions there, okay, now they're standing at attention because they know it's about to be serious. And so what did he say? So he said, the one who harms his neighbor, the one whose neighbor is not safe from his harm. What is this? How many types of harm that we could engage in? A lot of us live in apartments, right? Like stomping on our floors, disturbing our neighbors. Or maybe perhaps, we hog the laundry machine a little bit or something like that. But those are all things that, we're not talking about necessarily just physical injury, but even minor annoyances and grievances. That these are all things that can lead to a neighbor being harmed in some manner. Whether emotionally or mentally or what have you. We don't know the effects of our actions in our living situations that could cause our neighbors to have annoyances or grievances or what have you with us. Right? And so even entering into that into the first place is something that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is mentioning. A person who's not conscious of their neighbor to this extent, it's as if they didn't have iman in the first place. Right? It's as if he didn't have iman in the first place. And that's something for us really to pay attention to. Especially as we're building these discussions of making others happy, right? And mercy, kindness to the parents. That kindness, making others happy, that includes the most closest that are around us. And that is essentially the mercy excludes those that are most close around us. And so it's really something where we really need to reflect and pause for a moment just on these words of the Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ about a person not being a believer. That's very strong language, and I don't want to gloss over that. I know I'm repeating myself, but it deserves repetition. It's not something that should be glossed over. It's not something that should just be kind of, oh, okay, that's nice information. No. Because each and every single one of us is either listening to this or whatever, living next to our neighbors who are currently awake right now. We need to evaluate this right now. Lest Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us back to himself and we're left with these questions unanswered on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Nasallallahu salam wa afiyah. And so Imam Abdul bin Ali al-Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the foremost sages and scholars of the Hadramaut Valley in Yemen. One of the foremost scholars. He was born in 1044, right? He passed away in 1132 CE. In any regard. I'm sorry, not CE. Hijri calendar. Afwan. Hijri. But in any regard. Right? So Imam Abdul bin Ali Haddad, the author mentions that he was so exemplary in caring for the welfare of his neighbors that they became embarrassed by the amount of things that he would give them. On some nights, they did not want him to know that they had no food for supper. So they lit the oven so he would think that they had food and to eat and be content. And so one day he happened to meet one of his neighbor's children and asked him, what did you have for supper last night? And the child responded, we had no supper last night. And Imam Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, but I saw the oven alight in your house. And so the child responded, my family only did that because they're ashamed to ask from you. And so this greatly troubled him. So he went to reproach him, and he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, you have no right to do this to me. How can you put me in this terrible situation? Any night you find yourselves with nothing, my house is yours. Take what you wish from it. As long as we are neighbors, I will never permit you to go to sleep at night without dinner. This was how he treated the neighbors as a result of the strength of his faith. The story speaks in of itself. It resonates in of itself. It moves in of itself. It's felt in of itself. The concern that Imam al-Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala, showed for his name. And this is one of the great saints, the great scholars. And yet, on a grassroots level, he's so concerned. He's so conscious, and he's so desiring to fulfill the commandment of God, to do what is going to be beloved to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and being kind to their neighbor. He was so keen on it. So keen on it. So keen on it. And then look at us. We don't even bother to know our neighbors' names. And for the few of us that know our neighbors' names, how many of us really have a special bond and relationship with our neighbor? Beyond formalities, where we can carry conversation past, how are you? I'm good. SubhanAllah. Nasallallahu salam wa afiyah. And so, Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was just so forceful to fulfill the right of the neighbor. Even if the neighbor tried to seek the means otherwise, he was that concerned over being asked by Allah Azza wa Jal, and motivated through the love that he had, rahimahullah ta'ala, for his neighbor. In light of the prophetic, in light of what was mentioned in prophecy from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? All of those things together, the prophecy, the sunnah, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal, found within the Quran, and obviously within His times throughout the entirety of creation. Really, we see the wisdom of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, but then also in our own discourse as well, in our own thought, that these are all things that need to come together when we're thinking about how we're treating our neighbors and how we're going about it, and what really extends. Are we just looking for excuses to not serve them? Huh? Are we looking for excuses really not to know our neighbors and say, oh, well, they didn't want me to, ask them about the fire in the house, so let me not do that. Oh, he didn't ask me for help, moving those boxes into his home. So, mashallah, but you see the man struggling outside or whatever. Right? Or even Ramadan, I know they don't have as much, let me just run them up some dates or something real quick so they can break their fast. We don't think like that, do we? We don't think like that. Nas'alullah salam wa afiyah wa nastaghfir lahu. Inshallah. Even so much so that there's another narration. Get to this. A weaker narration, but a narration nonetheless, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you buy some fruit, then give him, i.e. your neighbor, some. Or else bring it into the house without him seeing it, and do not let your children go out without a piece of it, so as to not make his children jealous. Do not let him smell the food from your cooking pots without giving him some. And this was related in Bayhaqi, Tabarani, and others. And so, right, this builds off of what we were talking about. That we don't try to harm or annoy our neighbors to such an extent that we don't even want to put it within their minds. A sense of difference, a sense of envy, a sense of jealousy, or a sense of despair, sadness, a sense of neediness and dependency. People don't like that. People don't like that. And even so much so that if you have children, that you tell your child, basically how to get out the situation if the neighbor or somebody or one of the other children asks, so as way not to cause that kind of harm, that unintended. And so when we spoke about not causing the neighbor harm, it's not just about intentional harming that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was speaking about, but no, it's also unintentional harm. We're held accountable for it to a degree. We're held accountable for the intentional and the unintentional in regards to our niyyah and then the actions that follow suit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best concerning our intentions and the degree to which they can cover for any mistakes that we make in our ibadah in regards to our worship. But in any regard, right? In any regard, that it's such that we don't even let our children put themselves into situations itself. That's the kind of wariness that's described here from this hadith of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not to let them even smell the food. Why? So that it doesn't stoke any sense of insecurity or what have you. Perhaps you have some families that they just don't do a good job at cooking at night, and that's just their normal. And other families, mashallah, are able to make a 5-course dinner with an appetizer and a dessert and everything. But it's not that they should flaunt that in front of others. And when I say flaunt, now we're going to go back to Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever you want to call it. Everything, all that. That's an online community. We have online neighbors. We have friends, followers. And so what does it say when we snap a picture of some food that we are about to ingest? And we're more concerned about posting it as opposed to finding ways to share it. And we don't mean share by hitting the share button on Facebook, but no, actually really having that interface in sharing. Having that interface in sharing. قال النبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وطعام الاثنين كافي ثلاثة وطعام الثلاثة كافي أربعة. The Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said that the food for 2 suffices for 3, and that the food for 3 suffices for 4. Right? And so there's barakah when we do have it. When we do share on our food, there's barakah within that. And so if we take some portion of our own meal, our own dinners, and we know our neighbor could use it, Muslim or non-Muslim, inshallah ta'ala, the barakah from that blessing, we'll be able to have that same sensation of fullness despite whatever, despite us giving away some of that food or what have you to our neighbor that was in more need than us. In spite of that. SubhanAllah. It's something where when it comes to those different forms of social media, that when we put just stuff out there in that online community, that it's just, how are we serving? We post the pictures of the food, how is that serving? We post the pictures just flaunting our lifestyles, extending the discussion, right? Because you can extend this discussion to other objects, not just beyond the food picture that we take, that we snap, no. But when we flaunt ourselves out there, how is that causing other individuals' self-esteems to be helped? Other people to be inspired. Really, truly inspired, not just, they see other people's half-naked bodies on the internet and they're all of a sudden motivated to work out. No, truly inspired in a way that is sustainable and actually moves people, not just gives them a nice thought to think about on their coffee breaks and what have you. That the content that we put out there, we need to be conscious on how other people will take it. It's not all about me, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm trying to express myself, whatever. No. It is not about me. It is not about myself. It's not about expressing myself necessarily. We have to be conscious of how other people feel. Yes, we can be held accountable for injuring the feelings of others, injuring other people in their modes of thinking or what have you, that leads them to greater sin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But we need to pay attention to it. Not just to it, but to them, to others. To go out of our way to try not to be a hindrance towards others. Go out of our way to try to be accommodating. This is from the qualities of a Muslim. This is from the qualities of a Muslim, to be accommodating, to be sensitive to other people's needs. And not just being sensitive to others' needs, but seeking the means to accomplish whatever that need is. That's faith. That's faith. That's inculcating a noble character, inshallah ta'ala. By means of our neighbor, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He enables us to be able to be the best that we possibly can be with our neighbors. That He enables us subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to be there for our neighbors in their time of need, be there for them in their time in which they don't have a need. The point being that we need to just be there for them. By being there for them, inshaAllah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then be somebody for others. Be someone for us. And bring in our lives somebody who can be there physically for us and with us, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all immensely. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in our ability to be proper and good with our neighbors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in our ability to show love and mercy and kindness to our neighbors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability and the tawfiq and the acceptance to be able to be, if we're already engaged with some, whether it's maybe like convert brothers and sisters, within the community, or new Muslims or new like rediscovering Muslims or what have you, that we try to treat them as we do our neighbors. That we extend not just the treatment of our neighbors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that ability to not just extend our treatment of neighbors to those who physically surround us, but also to our online community, and also to our masjid community, our general community members, that we give them that same kind of treatment and have those building blocks of the community, the building blocks of love, the building blocks of mercy, the building blocks of kindness, and doing all of those things in truth and in beauty for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and increase you in every type of way. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody, inshallah ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us our siyam and our qiyam and all of our actions for His sake and His sake alone, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.